Here we go. Welcome, people. I'm getting used to this YouTube live. I'm talking to myself, smiling like a wally, and no one could hear me. But so welcome. Let's get this back going now. Here we go. Right, worked out how to do it now. Happy Sunday. So thank you for your patience, people. If you are watching live, please feel free to get involved with the chat. If you're watching the recording, please feel free to get involved with the comments, and always appreciate the comments that come in for the videos. This one today is going to be a really interesting topic. I've called it mind spiraling. It's mind, it's thought-provoking, it's mind-bending. It's it's a lot of things that have been coming up. So I'm going to throw it out there today to watch this with an open mind, but also to see what comes up for you and get involved with the shares. And this is going to really, how can I put this? This just gets you thinking in a completely different, I'm going to say, light. And this is also going to show the limitations. And for me, this is going to throw one a bit more into, we don't know anything. Like everything that we're being shown, or the world that we've been portrayed, everything, it's been a big lie. And this just leaves it completely open for why we're really here. I call it God's mission, God's plan. From what I'm taking from what's been coming up for me, God still doesn't remember either. So as things get brought into his awareness, God remembers, and we are part of God's plan if we choose to be. So we're going to see what comes up for people. So get involved with the chat. Hi Sandra, hi Cherry, hi John. Lovely April. Angel Face, welcome, welcome. Always look forward to watching you. Hi Jen. Welcome. Hi Claire, open-minded more than ever. Totally looking forward to this. Brilliant to see you on this as well. Hi Nikki. Some familiar faces. Welcome, people. I've definitely got my mojo back, that's for sure. And I realised that I've still got a massive role to play in all of life. And this is for everyone as well. So the things that keep coming up for me are so exciting because it stretches what life is about in my eyes. And I'm pretty sure soon you're going to start seeing the reasons why I feel that these topics are so big. And all our little differences, all our debates and arguments and stuff, when you zoom right out and you see, whoa, there's something much bigger in story, we drop the arguments instantly. Good evening, CQ. End games. Yeah, end games. I don't even like that word end anymore. This just takes it to a completely new dimension. And I said dimension, the mind is the psyop of everything that we're going on. It's what they control us with is our mind. If we look at the three-part being, the body, the mind, and the soul, it's the mind that we need to make sense of. It's the mind, which is the 4 dimensions, which if we used it to that capacity, everything changes. Yet mind that we view life as is in 2 dimensions. So you're looking at me right now on a flat screen. If you read books, paper's flat. When you look at shapes, they're flat. Calendars is flat. Everything that we are being shown is still from a place of limitations. So I've mentioned that mind, flat screen, 2 dimensions. If we can start viewing the life in 4 dimensions of what we can see, and when we close our eyes and we go into meditation, that's 5 dimensions. That's the soul, that's energy, that's all directions, always. You'll start seeing then the capabilities of what we can do with our body in 3 dimensions become so much easier. It's only our limitations from the mind that stop our body from doing amazing things. Pretty much everything is from the mind that makes us sick. Our beliefs, I mentioned the word limitations, but we stop ourselves doing things because we, one, don't think it's possible. Two, have had a experience before in the past, and we know, no, we can't do that. It's always the mind that gets in the way. It's the mind that overcomplicates things. It's the mind that worries about things. It's the mind that holds on to things. If we looked at the truth, your soul is love. Love is forgiveness. Love is joy. Love is peace. And your body is perfection. If your mind was out the way, when you go to sleep, your body does exactly what it does best: love you, heal you. It does things inside your body every second of every day. Magic. You break a bone, it fixes it. You cut yourself, it's already got to work before you even done it. It's amazing. But it's our beliefs that get in the way. So today we're going to go through 3D, 4D, 5D, and show how we're all conditioned on 2 dimensions. And I really think this is it's definitely going to get you thinking. So I've been trying to view life through 4 dimensions as much as I can. So when I go out now, first of all, I'll stare out the window as an example, and all I can see is just a flat screen effectively. But then when I'm paying a tiny bit of attention, you can then see depth on certain stuff. You can see curves on certain things. And if you look more and more, you can see there's a structure to each thing. You can see that certain things are further away, certain things are closer. We take all that for granted. We just look out, we see it all, and we don't stop. So I mentioned about the truth. Your experience is the truth. And if you take away time, we can go back to that same experience. So I can look out the window and I can see the building in front of me. I can see the tree to the left. That's my truth. That was the first experience. That's what I saw. Yet if I then bring myself back to that moment and I look in even more specifics, what was going on at the tree? Oh, that was a squirrel up in the tree. That then becomes the truth still. It's layered, it's on top. The moment is already gone and past, but we can capture that now and go back. So I'll move on to the actual presentation, because that's where the mind starts going off on one, is how we view reality. When we can start looking at everything that we've been shown and how we just accept things, then all of a sudden it's going to get you being able to zoom out a tiny bit more and see what the bigger plan is here. And I feel that once you start aligning yourself with something more supreme than us, yet knowing that we are part of that supremeness, you're going to want to change. You're going to want to get those shifts, and you're mostly experiencing loads of changes taking place already. Hi, Helen. I'm a mum, and I've noticed that your eyelid has been looking swollen. I know you're busy. Please look after yourself. I had a Reiki session the other day, and I've had a allergy for cats for a long time. And this year I said it's my mission to be good around cats. And when I was in Arizona and someone had a cat, and I felt the panic of my body just go up, and I had to just sit in this room all night, and I could see the cat. I was watching all the different things it was doing. It was almost like it was terrorizing me. My body just went off on all different allergies. So there was a cat in the place for Reiki, and it jumped on my chest in the middle of the session, and it didn't move. It just sat there. My nose didn't go. My breathing didn't go. Normally I turn into Shrek. You have to take me to hospital sometimes. And I thought, wow, that was amazing. And then if you watched it was on Thursday. I then did my connecting the dots. That was about 2.5 hours. My eye was fine. And then after, I had the biggest swollen eye ever. Let me just see if I can get it. Look at that. So that was after, and then that hit me. So yeah, just a cat allergy. I'm good. I'm protected. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm eating well. And now I've got my mojo back with all the meditations, and I've got some cool creations. I've got a Soul Warrior course coming out too, and that goes so deep into protecting your energy and really testing the ego. I've got a few different approaches where we go to extremes. but because you're prepared for it, you know what's to come. Then you just work on what takes place inside. So I'll stop waffling on now. Yeah, that was quite a strange one based on what come up for me. But I've had times. I remember when I used to go and meet women when I was like college days. My first question would be, "Have you got any cats?" And one lady lied to me. She had 4 under her bed when I went round hers, and the next day I was, yeah, awful. I remember I was on the train on the way home. The little kid was next to the mum going, "Look at him." So yeah, cats have been my nemesis. However, cats have got psychic abilities and stuff. So I'm trying to work on that because there's a fear aspect somewhere in my body. 33 on as well. We've got that number coming up today as well. I love that. John's on fire with the 33s. So let me show you what's been coming up for me and everyone at the moment. What's going on in the news? What's the big event that we're all seeing at the moment? What country is it? And we've seen this country, Israel, literally for years. There's always been conflicts. There's always been different divides with different countries, neighboring countries. There's been war aspects. Yet if we then go back to history, it's the Holy Land. It's where Jesus was born. There's something about Israel. And at the moment, we're seeing more war. So this is my YouTube channel, and I haven't really spoke about a lot of the politics and all the stuff going on in the world, but the last one I did was to show how there is one solution. And I also kind of suggested that this is a biblical war that we're in, and everything that we are experiencing, we are being led down that path for an awakening to snap us out of a sleepy state that we've been in, to then take us and prepare us for what's to come. And again, the reason why I just said that then is it's going to tie in nicely with what I've got presented today. And this has only just come up this morning for me in terms of the information that I've found. So this is new still, and I haven't seen it anywhere, but I found some things to kind of back it up. The one thing that I would ask people is to just take this away and just see what else comes up for you, because I know it's definitely going to get the mind thinking, because we're not working on 2 dimensions anymore. And you're going to see how potentially we've lived a limited life. And on that spiritual war aspect, I feel that there's a bunch of people, I'm going to call them God's workers, just divine intelligence connecting, that have been working on this game of all master plans to take us to where we are at the moment. It's almost like we've all been led down this way. And whether you say it's fair or not fair, I feel that if we go back into the spiritual aspect of this is generational, this goes way back past what we're experiencing in our lifetime. We've got a big part to play, reincarnating and coming into a, yeah, it is one plan. It's kind of when they say timelines are emerging and we hear people saying we're ascending and stuff, I feel that this all ties into it. So to come back to that war, there's a scary stuff going on. If you just took the time to stop and listen to some of the stuff that I've put out there and a lot of other people, it's a movie that we're watching. We have to go through it all. We're at a point in our history where we are advancing so much that you have to remove evil before we can go forward. So everything we're seeing now may look horrible. It may look like people are dying, but I'm suggesting, and I can back this up so knowingly now, that all of this is a movie. There's no surprises anymore unless you're not choosing to look. And if your ego goes off and there's a bit of resistance, and there's a resistance coming out of you, and it doesn't have to be. You can disagree with all of that and no, it can't be. And I'm like, just stop. And if you really want the world to change, and I get excited about, I can share a lot of the stuff out. And then I always say, come back after. Because if you can accept that, the one reason why is it's going to get worse. Or visually it look worse. More and more countries are getting involved with conflict. We'll hear words like nuclear, we'll hear more deaths. will hear that people are going to turn on us. At the back of your head, just know that we've already won this. You can go and look and enjoy what's coming, because after people, transformational in a world where we all feel safe. Or you could just ignore all these words that I just said and completely forget about it and then go down the scary path. And some people are like, no, it's going to get worse, it's going to get worse. I'm like, okay, if you want it to get worse, you can go down that way, but everything is already here. So I'm putting quite a big emphasis on that, is if you want to know more, it's there. More and more conflict's going to come up. Just know that we're already in full control. And this hopefully will set the tone, because there's good people been working behind the scenes without us realizing, because it's so intelligent. And you let this law to play out throughout lifetimes, where creation comes first, and then man and power and greed then grabs onto it, holds onto it, and then tries to control the masses from the creation. Always comes first, though. Paula, I met you at Crossfield Hall in Romsey and resonated with everything you communicated that meeting. Your breath meditation brought me to tears. You are truly, I can't see that because there's a love heart in the way. Oh, you're a gift sent for this time. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Paula. That was like June time, the Romsey one. So yeah, that was good period, actually. So thank you for coming. I'm glad you enjoyed the sessions. They're powerful. So people got meditations on this channel, actually, continuous every day. We put up different ones, and they go live meditations if you want to join us on Telegram, which is Harry the Soul Coach Meditations. Right, so let me just kind of go through this and we'll see what comes up today. And again, like I said, I'm still piecing a lot of this together. There's a lot of things that I know is not right, where the whole bigger emphasis, I know I'm onto something. I know that for a fact, just with the way things were linking up. So let's look at what we're all seeing at the moment. You go on mainstream media, type in BBC News, which I like going for a reference, just to see what the world's being shown. And it's just chaos, crying, rescuing, dying. It just looks bad. And there's retaliation going, there's terrorists. It's just sort of Ukraine, and it's even got war in Ukraine as well. Let's see what it says on here. More violence, more damaging. It's just like, come on. So as on the video that I did the other day, that man, Donald J. Trump, is the answer to all this. That can trigger a lot of people. If you just go and watch it, you can see the only reason why you get triggered is because you're not willing to go and have a look. I can back up everything that I put out. I can stand on it, and I can do it really with a smile. And any questions that you have, I can show you. So we're going to keep that on there. So what's quite interesting, when wars, when conflicts, when anything that is quite dramatical, there's always opinions and beliefs, and then you'll get with, you say ego, you get people that are outspoken. And the last few years have been a journey for me in terms of truth and looking at information. However, I don't just share what the mainstream media tell me. If there's videos that come out, I dig into it. I have to. And then I'll put things out and I'll back it up with justifications and stuff. So why it's I mentioned that is when things like this come out and it brings the whole world together, all of a sudden you see a lot of people just jump in and then they've got an opinion. And I know now when people have not actually looked into it, they've just heard it or they're repeating something else. And sometimes, and again, I'm very good, when I know my truth, I'm very good with conversations, because I'm already ahead of what they're going to say. And I know what they're going to say because it's repeated. And also I know they're going to get triggered. So if they get angry at all, I call them out on their anger. So it's really interesting to watch human behavior, especially when it's war like this. On the last video I showed you, all the Trump peace agreements with Israel already been done. There's loads of peace agreements all around the world. And why that's important, if you go and read them and actually go and look at them, they're already being action now with the military. So again, it's almost like the war is finished, but we have to be shown it because we wasn't ready for it before. we all have to go through some sort of shake-up too, because we're so sleepy, we're slow, so unconscious. And also, which ties in with everything I'm going to do, we're not interested. As long as we're happy and people around us happy, I don't care about the rest of the world. That's the mentality of in the world we live in. Yet there's countries being bombed. And now it's like, okay, now we're looking a tiny bit more. Everyone's going to have some sort of shake up soon. It's getting closer to that. So what's quite interesting, so I typed in the Star of David, and this star, this emblem is on the Israel flag, and you bring up loads of comments: Zionist, Masons, satanic worship, like every bit of hate comes up with it. Jesuits. I keep it at them ones at the moment. And every time Israel gets mentioned, you always get the same sort of comments come up. Now it's like, because it's Israel versus Palestine, it's either you're with pro-Palestine and you're seeing all these people in the streets and stuff come out now, aggressive. And then you've got the mainstream media, it's like pro-Israel. And we live in this duality world where it's like, oh, it's got to be one or the other. It's not either. It's war. You just stop it. Like Trump can end this in 24 hours. I've mentioned him a few times, but war don't make sense. Peace makes complete sense. And if we all had our say in it, it'd be peace every time. It's just we've allowed these people to run the world for us. So attachment to things that we're shown based on information that we've maybe done the research on for a while, we have to be careful of just repeating stuff from a few years ago. Because as more knowledge, more awareness, more education, more experience for us in our lives, things change because we're viewing it from a different viewpoint. So I'm viewing this now from as high as I can each time. I go through my eyes, like with my knowledge. I go through whoever's sharing this with me and see it where they're coming from. I look at it from a military perspective, and I try to go one even higher now. What's a great film I watched? It'll come up for me. There was a film that I watched yesterday, and again, it showed you how you can set the diameters of this experience if you come out of the physical. It was like a clairvoyant that was on there as well. Yeah, again, going off topic on this one. We can always change with the information that we're being shown. So when people come out of aggression, it's like Zionist and they stole the land. They shouldn't be allowed it back, and it's Palestine's, look at it, and you get the images where you see Israel was this big, now it's that big, and how can you allow people to have this land, and why is it so important? It was all these things. So let's go on to the next one. And then with the war as well, people say it's like the devil and it's the deep state and it's evil. Let's catch up with people first and then come back on. Harry, I'm watching or listening to any news. I'm not fearful of anything that is happening. I believe in God is in control. I trust that he knows what's best for us. I'm just living my life. Thank you for sharing, Helen. I'd encourage at this moment is to look at both sides now. What is being shown from the fear aspect, just to see it, because you're watching all of it. The reason why I say that is this is our life. It's like if we choose we don't want to look, we don't want to look, but it's getting more and more spicy in here. It's almost like that's your poke. Pay attention. Have a little look even more so, because I'm just living my life is going to be, oh my God, that moment. Remember we was on YouTube and we're chatting to complete randers and that, and then that sets like the next part. So there's so much to look forward to here as well. So where are we? Oh yeah, so then you'll see things, the star, and it said, oh, it's 666, look at it, it's all evil and it's devil worshippers and stuff. And anything that has any creation here is always created by God first. So those symbols it was a shape. It's like the word before it had meaning was just like squiggles on a piece of paper. That is all God. It had to be created from somewhere. So all creation's God creation, and then man after gives it the meaning. So I'm showing this one from the Bible. It's Revelation 13:18. So the number 666, we just associate that's just evil, that's just bad. And I would agree with that. Anyone that's flashing around 666, you could label them in the same category as Nazis. You could say they're evil devil worshippers. And that's all we've known through our lifetime. So this is a really powerful one. That this calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So look at it now through God's eyes. All of this, there's dark, there's light, there's the yin, there's the yang. This is still my creation. That's the opposite of me, ego, edging God out. That's me, love. And look at all the creation I got from there, dark to light. It has to have both. You don't know God until you know what not is God. And it's exactly the same with love. You cannot tell me what true love is until you haven't had it. And you've had all the lows, or you've had the heartbreak, because you wouldn't know what that is otherwise. And some people, again, great example, you could have had a first love or a second love, and you was like, no, that was true love at the time. This is it. And then you look back, like, that wasn't even close to love. Like, what was I thinking? I got caught in the attraction. I got caught in lust. So 666, and anything again with the Bible from many, many, many years ago, you cannot take it as a full truth now. You have to take it from your perspective. So if you see someone who's fancy dressed and they're 666 and they're doing all this stuff, yeah, they're evil and they're making it obvious. But look at it from God's plan. And this is going to come on to, again, with the star and all the other things. Creation comes first. And what happens is evil, because evil needs power, it will get what it can onto creation, then keep it for himself. It will steal it. It will kill for it. I like using examples of even actors or sports people. That's God. As soon as you're in your flow, they're doing things that are just like, you're lost for words when you see certain people do stuff. That's God. So that's the talent. That's just everything magical about the human experience. And then what happens? They need to get their hands on it, control them, agents. Then you get the press. And then you get people that go out there deliberately to destroy them. It's almost, we can't let God win. That's the spiritual battle. Everything that's created first. Steve Jobs and Apple. It was just as godly as you can get, some of his ideas and how far ahead of the game he was. They bought Apple off of him. They kicked him out. They sacked him from his own company. And after that, they lost the inspiration. They lost the authenticity. He had to come back in again. I like to go raving, and it's about 10 years ago now, worked out. And some of the festivals that I went to, brand new ones, amazing. But the vibe, and then a few years went by and it just got worse and worse. The vibe got, it was just filled with criminals and crooks and drug dealers, and they just wanted to fight and everything. My company, my business. And then you get people that come in and they will use your stuff and then they'll screw you over. I never understood like corruption or anything when I was growing up. And then I got myself into London, central London, and I was personal training. And then I set up my business. And my dad always said, you're too trusting. We got screwed over all the time, people stealing from us and stuff, receptionists and that. Never seen it before. And then someone said, oh, that's business. It's like you go out deliberately to deceive people on purpose. And then that becomes just natural because it is survival. That's the world we live in. It's hustle, like rightly or wrongly, people do it for it. So coming back to this number then, when you see these numbers, zoom right out before time or when there was less people in this world and there was good people just getting on with life, enjoying the experience. And there was people, let's say, coming to your village. Now they're trying to tax you. Now they're trying to say, we're taking that, we'll take your women. And like, how is that fair? So we've evolved from all these different things that have gone on in the world. Evil will always be lurking where the light is, always. So for power, to defeat God, to get as close to it as possible. Call it the 99%, but the 1% will always win. God. Everything mirrored like that. So go back to the start of this. Let's say, okay, in God's time, there's a group of people and saying, look, wherever we go, they're charging now, those people over there, they're charging for the living water. They're charging for the electricity. They're charging for the fruits that God's just grown for them. You can see it everywhere. You can't control it back then. We didn't have the resources. We didn't have the information of the world. Now we're getting a bit more like that. So imagine coming up with an idea. I know, why don't we set the environment, because creation, well, we're going to have to capture some of these. So a good way, why don't we tell them, look, this is the truth, and 666 evil. And then you then say to them that every time you put 666 out, like, you can communicate with each other. That was the truth of that part. But in God's time, all the way around, they might have had all this power, got very confident with it. But now we're coming to this part. Now we can see how they're clearly evil. I use another example. This will make it more sense as well. This same thing is where people give meaning to it. So I say the same with the English language. The English language has something called legalese. So you've got the law and then you've got the legal system. The legal system was created to, or we believe, to keep a lot of bankers and a select group of people in power through trickery. So imagine, and I've always said the English language is so clever, it's deceptive, so deceiving, but I was always impressed of like how they got away with it, how they could come out of that. And I also knew that only God could create that. So these people, it's all mind and all, we say it's clever, but I'm like, they couldn't have done it. And this makes more sense now. So with the English language, there's a duality. For every negative word, there's a positive. Never, always. There's always a positive. So if you're evil, and you're saying that if you speak negative words, if you speak the legal system, you're tricking them. They don't even know that you're putting spells on them, and they don't even know. Hello, oh hell, good morning. Morning is what you do when you go to a funeral, you mourn. Days in a week. Days is when you're daisy, and week is when you feel lethargic. At the end of the week, it's the weekend, you're weakened. Imagine telling a bunch of criminals, look at the language. They're stupid, they don't even know you can do. And then they just take that out, and they know that they're doing wrong because they know, or they think that that's the truth, which it is. But in God's time, as we fast forward to where we are now, and I'm doing this because that would be a thing today, I now know for me, and everyone who's done the soul coaching, if you speak negative at all, you cannot be in your truth. Any negative word straight away, it's not the truth. I don't even need to know what you say anymore. If you're swearing every other word, I know you're not conscious, because you wouldn't choose to do that if you knew what it did to your body. If you're getting aggression, fear, anger, it's not the truth. So I don't need to know what you say. I'll just stop that. But it's taken a long time to get to there. But in God's time, that was the plan. So we give it to them and tell them that's the truth. Another one is the shape of the world. These people, the world's not a globe. And then you tell them it's flat, which I'm going to come on to. And they go, God, these people think it's a globe. Look at them. They're brainwashed. They're stupid. So they think they're in power. But the moment that person realizes, hang on a minute, then you can see, oh, yeah, you snap out of it again. So the mind and criminals, that's one, but they never know the full truth. They've been told it. So they think they know the truth. And I use the Bible as an example. There's people that have been taught the Bible and they've been the gatekeepers of that. And they've been spreading this message for years, twisting, changing certain parts. And they're like, well, we know what the truth is. However, they're still stuck in the past. The truth is the information that we're exposed to. It's the new knowledge, it's the new awareness, it's the new achievements that human beings can do, which they wasn't doing base jumping with all their squirrel suits back when there's writing the Bible. It's like the amount of technology education going into making a base jumping suit, they wouldn't have known. That's still God's creation. So you can't rely on the Bible for things that are happening in this world. They didn't have email. So by the time I sent you a message, you'd have got on horseback, you'd have had to hire a boat in the olden days, you'd have been, can you imagine like the differences? So we take parts of it. I hope that makes sense, because you're going to start seeing then, anytime anyone tells you this is what it means from the past, that's what it did mean. It's not effectively what it means now. Freemasons, they're all so bad. But if we set up all the plans, which I'm going to show you, I say we people, when like, or you say we're in a spiritual war. It's good and evil, light and dark. So when I say we, I'm on the light. When I say we, I'm thinking with God. I'm thinking with the military. I'm still part of it. I might not have a uniform, but I'm still fighting with them. What's my role here? When I say we, I'm talking for all of us on here too. As soon as you start doing that, your awareness expands. Because I'm thinking outside of myself now, outside of limitations, trying to think what else would be the reasons for this. So this goes through generations, this war. Just think dark, light. It doesn't matter what time period it is. It's the same thing. It's a universal law. The soul is the truth, call it the sun. The moon is the mask of the sun. And it wears different masks throughout the month. That's the different ego characters. That's people trying to find themselves. And then you just come back to the truth again every time. It's a whole cycle. So everything in this creation is us. It's God's creation, all of it. That's the beauty of this. You can simplify it like that. So let's come back. Love what you do. Thank you, Sage. Okay, so we come back onto this one. So here's another one then. So look at this logo. We all know, or I'm hoping we all know now. This one on the right, there's squirrels. People on the chat, can you leave? What is that? And if you don't know, mums and dads, pay attention to this one, because it's going to be significant for how we've evolved from where we are or where we was. Because of, they say the word symbolism will be their downfall. The symbolism also, there's a duality, will be our uprising. You're saying, oh, it's all that. And we created the symbols, we gave it to them. We told them what it's about. We told them how to communicate. We create the environment. They go and buy into it. Over a number of time, they get complacent. And then all of a sudden, we catch them when the revelations come, all at once. So, peeps, what have we got? It's not a good logo, by the way. It represents paedophilia. So it was a logo that was released, unclassified in the end. They declassified it. And it was an FBI document to show these are logos and images. I'm going to pick it back up. And this is important. So the logo was this swirl. That was one of them. It was like little boy lover. So if you take God as pure love, divine, and I always say the baby comes out into this world, the son of God, children of God, that is God's creation. There's evil people amongst us that live amongst us, spiritual war that do anything they can to defeat God. They don't think in terms of human. So there is like Cain in the Bible. They say Cain ate bull, cannibal. They're cannibals because it's defeating God. So they don't have concept of children and adult and stuff. They just do what they can. And this has gone on like for eternity. So this logo, we got shown this like 90s, it got revealed. And then in 2020 was the year where all this stuff really started coming out. Why have I showed that one? Because the sick thing and what they said, oh, it's twisted, it's sick, is that logo also represents the fingerprint of God. And it was like the anger that come from people. How dare they? They insulted so much that they put God's fingerprint and they put that as their logo. And I used to say that as well. And it's like, wow, the fingerprint of God, one of the books that got me into all this sort of stuff. And like that fingerprint on you and that thumbprint is unique. It's like a snowflake. It's so magical to know that there's only one of you out of all these. So you are special. You're meant to be here. It's your signature. It's your prim. So the duality, the sick and twisted, is like shit. So every time you see that logo, it's disgusting. It's evil. I didn't even buy an ice cream from Walls because they had that logo on it. I'm like, I'm not buying that. I don't use the squiggle on my iPhone. They got the blue squiggle on there, and I'm like, not using it. That's pedo logo. I'm giving it now. Man gives that. So let's go back to this quote again. Look, this calls for wisdom. For it is the number of a man. So we've said that's evil and that's pedos and stuff. And I agree, and I wouldn't choose to go and just advertise that. However, that's fingerprint of God too. What's more powerful? Evil, horrible, satanic people, or God? So if more of us knew with the education, this is a fingerprint of God, you speak God. And you have to start with, you'd have to back it up, you'd be selective, but this comes so important. So it got me thinking, if you imagine you're on a table looking down and you've got the whole world there, you're looking through God's eyes, looking down at his creation. It's like a game of battleships. And you now can see everything going on, and there's little different evils popping up, and you're now coming out of this cunning plan, right? I need to end all this. How are we going to do that? I might have here. Okay. So he goes, I need to end this. So think of God's time. There's no such thing as time apart from now. And creation, regardless if you're doing it without any thought, you just know at some point in the story, that's going to come back round again. I just did it for this reason, but that inspired someone else to go and make this invention. So I also just want to show you, it's called the golden ratio. Everything you see in this creation will have the same symmetry. So you can see where the fingerprint of God come from. The golden ratio, even when they do rectangles, it is magic. Even what's his name? Da Vinci, sorry, all of his work back in the day as well. Do you think Da Vinci was doing these drawings just because he was a clever guy, or do you think he's downloading from source, from God? Like everything, people, when we start seeing this golden ratio, and you can search it, it's everywhere throughout. And this is the beautiful thing about God now. And I realize every creation, everything is a mirror of what our body can do, is inspired by what animals can do. It looks at how nature works. And then we create it going forward. Internet, you're looking at me, internet, instant speed. I'm talking now. Like, that's like me being on the moon and you're getting instant speed in 1969 with the president on the phone with no electricity, or how they did that. But that's the same mind-blowing stuff. I'm talking to you. I'm moving at real time. How? How do they do that? Like, I'm not there. You're seeing, you've got a black screen in front of you and you've got loads of lights going. That's how the inner body works. We have something called, I can quickly show you now. We have something called fascia inside the body. So when I was, I used to do a lot of personal training, used to do education. We used to train the fascia and used to really have focus on this, but it was too ahead of people. You get same thing, no, you're just no rubbish, you've got to do bench press. And fascia is the spider web. And what used to happen is when you do cadavers to do research on bodies, we didn't have the knowledge enough. So the bodies would be dead for, say, 6 months, and you'd have it at university. So when they cut open the body, it's not a new living body. It's been dead for 6 months. So all this fascia, let's say I pulled up the skin, and it just looked like loads of cobwebs. You just moved it out of the way, and then you start going, oh, that muscle does that, and that does that. You get all the meaty and the fleshy bits. That bit had already been died out because it's, look at it, it's hydrated. But on a body now, cadavers, you get a body with a day old, and they're doing all this sort of stuff on it. Cadavers so interesting when you look at your fascia system. So it's this web is intertangled. So whenever you've got a tight muscle or a tight chest or a tight hamstring, that's BS. It's never tight muscle. Muscle can't get tight. It's all your structure around this. If I sit in this position all day long, do you see those thick lines? My body's laying collagen all the time, and it gets used to, right, I need to just create a different shape for him now to assist. But this is also a web of how we communicate. We say that our body's made up at 75% water. Where is that water? It doesn't slosh around. It goes within these systems. Water holds information. And what they show you is this is like electric web. So the way that the signals go throughout the body, that's how the internet works. They mirrored it like that. It's amazing. A cell phone. One cell has everything about you in it. A cell phone has everything about you in it. They've managed to do it all now. It's a mirror. So everything you see, everything is being inspired by something else. God, 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 God. That makes life even more exciting then. So I'm now trying to work out how my body works. And I'm thinking, if I got loads of wires tucking out, I need to tuck those back in first before that pulley machine that I do. If the wires are out, the wires get damaged. So things like that makes no sense to anyone else, but makes sense for me. Those pop, 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 every time you get the package, pop, 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 pop. I can now feel that do it. I'm like, oh my God, they made that from the inner body. Bow and arrow. How did they come up with that idea? Oh, that's your spine. Oh, someone dies. They go, oh, bing. Your body, inspired by your body. So reason why I'm showing that, this is all going to come back round to make sense. At some period of time, you wouldn't know. It wouldn't make any sense. But that's because you're thinking from a human. From the spirit, it's infinite possibilities. So this is a war, a biblical war, a spiritual war, dark versus light, before time that we even knew existed. It's just there's evil that lurks around. You could call evil lazy. Someone does all the work, comes up with the idea, and they're just clever enough to go, right, I'll take that. I'll share that one. It's just the way it works. Some people, that's how they get on. Imitators, they just copy, and they do very well out of it. Someone will do a talk, and they go and do the same talk 65 times in a row. And it inspires so many people. There's just that difference each time. So this is important. So I'm showing you this now because this will make more sense as we go in. Let's see what we got. I think that pink heart logo is Wool's ice cream and Pampers nappies. Yeah. And I'm starting to feel now that they've been put in deliberately, knowing for our awareness, go, oh my God, it's on the cartoons, it's on the nappies. But the people behind them mostly thought, yeah, look what we're doing. But beyond that, it's letting us know, without this, how would we know? We're so much more aware of what's on the TV now in the background because we've been shown that's what to look out for. So you can imagine, yeah, for me, it's amazing. So there's a duality in everything, including words and numbers. It's all about intentions. Perfect, April. And who does that always come from? The observer, you. Everything you. So anything that you say, oh, that's what he believes, or that's what that means. My next question is, and I do this, how do you know that? Where have you seen that from? And you'll see people get really uptight with it. I'm like, but you've just made a statement. Let me ask a question, because I now know that I can't take that as a full truth unless you can back it up. And if you can't because you heard it from someone else, I can't take it as a full truth. I can be interested. So I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Or no, that's not right, because look, this counters that. So there's a duality in everything, but it always comes from us. Always. That's the teaching here as well. It has to come from us. The Bible, all of that is God's creation. Even if it talks about darkness in the Bible, it's like, okay, I'm getting awareness on darkness, and this is a great way to approach it. Oh, and then go on. Movies for kids. Why do they make so much horror movies? And I see a lot of pastors and Christian church, everything, because I'm interested in the Bible now. I try to find out what other people are saying. And there's all these people, Insta famous and stuff, shouldn't let your kids watch these films. This is terrible. Mums and dads, don't you do, you'll stop. If you let your kids watch the films, but you gave them placement beforehand, place the mind. If you gave them intention, feel what comes up and say, look, this is the evil stuff that does go on in the world. This is what people do about it. This is where I've had an experience in my life, and this is how it changed. If you give the whole teaching with it, they watch it with that perspective. Perspective is everything. If you're a dad, jealous dad, got a 13-year-old daughter, she's not allowed out. I know what men are like. I used to be like that. My daughter's not going out. You become that really protective dad. Your daughter's going to go out. That's the world. And the more you do that, the more she's going to want to rebel against it. But if you let her go out, but you explain, be aware. If you go on a date and he's not looking into your eyes, if he's on his phone the whole time, if he's not paying any attention to you, wrong person. Why? Because that's what I used to do. Didn't pay any attention. Like, you give them, you prep them, you make them aware, but it's their life then. The more things we got to be aware of without our agenda thrown onto it, it's awareness. That's how we live. That's how we move forward. That's how people evolve quickly without our biases. And bias is another word that come up. So to know your enemy, you must become your enemy. So in this grand plan, it's like, this is going to happen regardless. We can't stop it. It's wrong what these people do, but they're going to do it. So everything we're seeing now is coming to a climax. And there's certain things like the CIA, that word will come up even more so now. Going back to the Zionists, going back to the Freemasons, we all just have this story painted about them. That's this, Freemasons are bad. How do you know? Well, I've done loads of research over the years. Okay, how do you know? That's what everyone says. Okay, how do you know? There's other layers to this because we haven't gone back. So to know your enemy, become your enemy. So I've realized that all creation was with this intention. And I realized that what we're seeing now, and I come on to this because this guy makes a big part of everything we're experiencing and what's going to lead on to today. Harry Truman. Harry Truman set up the CIA. This is all around the same period, just after World War II. Harry Truman, we're effectively in a Truman show at the moment. All the latest new technology was going to be because of Harry Truman. All the way that we're defeating all this evil is because of Harry Truman. So he set up the CIA. We've been told the CIA are bad. We see it in the films. We hear loads of different things on there. They're corrupt. There's corruption everywhere, remember. Their main objective was the Central Intelligence Agency was abroad. To work out how crime worked, they had to then be with them. And they would have their own informants. Narcos, El Chapo, go and watch it. You'll say, whoa, CIA were the ones who controlled it all. They've done that always. They've done that always, but they get more and more intelligence on these people to the point now you're going to start seeing that the original whole plan of CIA was to catch them all. It has to turn. So every bad thing that we have about it, and you're going to see this on films, a film that I suggest people to go and watch is Mile 22 with Mark Wahlberg. And you'll see the technology that's used now is crazy. Again, movies is another way to put the truth out. Hollywood. So let me show you what else he did. So CIA set that up. And this guy's a Freemason. He set up the NSA. The NSA is how we've scanned the whole internet. We call everything, every bit of evil, again, God's creation, the whole web, the World Wide Web. Everything that ever goes on there, even if it's a secret Zoom meeting, even if it's got like these double-layered, triple-layered passwords, even if you did the work in the 90s, everything that's ever gone in there, the military have a backup because they own the web. Anything that's gone in there, and that's John McAfee's role. He's played a big part. So you've just got to know, as technology advances, we create it all, the criminals use it all. They're going to. Crime has gone up ridiculous since the internet. New types of crime. Some of the worst types of crime because of the way it all connected. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, yeah, it's terrible what's going on in the world at the moment. Everything's getting worse and worse. It's just like technology is getting dangerous now. We're worried about the new technology and AI is dangerous. And if we continued with the same people, that's why this is so important. We take out all evil because we're tracking all evil. And on YouTube, people, I don't really speak about this too much. However, a suggestion is go and watch Fear City on Netflix. and see how we took down the mob in the 80s, before the internet came out. The internet was released with Ronald Reagan in 1987. They took down the mob with Ronald Reagan in 1983. It's the same war. All of this is the same war. So I'm going to show you just a few more because this leads on to my next part. Harry Truman was the military commander at that point as well. And he set up something called Majestic 12. And there was all these suggested sightings of UFOs, unidentified objects. They also then put in some sort of alien cover-up too, because all the new technology that they were going to be working on, some people would then see them all. So rather than going, oh, it's military, they're building all these, you have people then saying, oh, that's aliens. So that's the technology that we got now, you'd call it alien because we've never seen it. It's so alien to us, we just wouldn't know. It's not been shown to us because they're secrets. Harry Truman's had a big part of that. So next one, this was big. So the reason why I come on to Harry Truman was because I'm a big follower of this war. And I'm connecting more and more dots all the time. And I'm really interested in the history. Everything dates back to Harry Truman, where you can start seeing how things started being set up. So Israel, a big talking point was Israel's new, like they shouldn't have given that land in the first place. And I had a conversation the other day of like, would you think it's wrong that they just went in and just plopped themselves there and stuff as well? And so that's been sitting with me for a little while. However, I know that Harry Truman, when they first set up Israel, Harry Truman, 11 minutes later as president, so all this same time, recognized Israel as the Jewish state, 11 minutes after. So look, let me just get it up for you, just so you see here. So US President Harry Truman was the first world leader to officially recognize Israel as a legitimate Jewish state on May the 14th, 1948. They just set up the CIA. They just set up the NSA all the same time. So this war, so I've always known that Israel, regardless if people say they're bad, they're wrong, well, Harry Truman's recognized them as the Jewish state 11 minutes, by the way, after it was created. Look, only 11 minutes after its creation, he's got something to do with all of this. So Israel, and also with Donald Trump continuing this war, has also been a supporter of Israel. So I'm like, right, regardless of what anyone tells me about all these Zionists and all these different stories, I know at the very core that I'm supporting Israel. And you'll see what I'm going to mean by that even more so by today. I don't know anything about what's going on. I don't care about it. Like, I do all care. But whatever you're telling me, I don't care for that. Because you won't look at Harry Truman. Same thing. It's exactly the same thing. All comes to the same war. Harry Truman was the Freemason at that period. He was a commander-in-chief, and you're going to see some of the other things that took place with the topics that we're going on to today. So let me come back. Please do get involved with the chat, people, if you are on. It's new to me still with the YouTube.
Are your employees adding security holes?
Sorry.
Take.
So. Okay, so I said that Harry Truman's got a big part to play in this. What was quite interesting as well. So again, I look at perspective and I'm seeing that World War II, two nations were fighting each other, Germany and England. Well, also with all the years of research, it was planned, it was funded by both sides. There was a group of special interests that benefited regardless. It was a way to make money. With all the tanks, all the uniforms, all the weapons, they just managed to have nations destroy each other and then they benefit. And that was always the truth. And that was, if you look at it from that perspective, that was the truth. These people in control, they're evil. And that's where it kind of laid. Whereas evil people ran the world and there's nothing we can do about it. Yet, what I didn't realize as the war strategy, the World War II, that was when Harry Truman come in. Like literally the other president died and he had to just come in as the replacement straight away in the middle of a war. So whilst World War II was going on, Harry Truman's, or I'm going to say the US military, because it's just before Truman, they then set up in Greenland. they set up one of the biggest military bases out there, and they offered protection of Greenland, of the whole land, as long as they could get their support there. So they did loads of research and stuff there, and this comes important and later on as well. They strategically set up base there, because if we look at the whole world rather than these little bits, they're in an ideal position. My challenge today is everything that we've been shown from the maps is not right at all. So there's loads on Harry Truman and Greenland. So it's just really interesting. And you can see all the research for 3 years. They did loads of like research in the snow. They would be making these, I guess you could say, buildings that worked underground. They'd work how the piping works. And they used that to then later go to Antarctica, which was an expedition that, again, Harry Truman set up. So this is going to lead us into the next bit. And I just wanted to show the Freemason bit as well. There's loads on here being a 33rd degree Freemason. That number 33 will come in important today as well. So they hold a lot of the highest civil honor in the world. I've always regarded my rank and title as a past Grand Master of Masons, the greatest honor that had ever come to me, Brother Harry Truman. So like all the things that he's done, military, president, with the wars and setups, his rank, how he regarded himself, was always a Master of Masons. So the importance of that as well. So to move forward, we have to be exposed to all the stuff that we would call darkness. A lot of us are good, godly people, that some of these things that take place have never been a thought for us before. Some of these things that was taking place used to happen around us, and we didn't even know, because you wasn't aware of it. You just didn't assume that people could do that. So we are now in a contained system called The Truman Show. It's like that movie. And I've just shown this clip. This is right at the end of the movie, but that is quite a symbolic scene. He's doing the cross like Jesus, and he's just about to exit. He's crossing over. So this is going to come and tie in with some of the suggestions of the story that we've been told. God's plan is still ever present now. God's plan is unveiling itself for God to know thyself at this moment. So we say God always knows. He does, but he doesn't remember. Just like we as souls don't remember, and we're remembering now. He only remembers when the experience comes that, and then the next way, and you're going to start seeing, this makes it more exciting. Because when I'm present in my meditations, there's certain things that come up, and it's like, I just know. Like today, certain things come up, and like, I'm onto something. It's just you get a knowing, and it's like you're sharing God's space. It's the spirit. You're one with the Father. That's meditation. So I know now meditation is, and again we'll go through this today. Meditation is when your soul, your spirit, and your spirit has left the body, but you're still the human experience, your halo. You've crossed over, so you're now having a human experience in full awareness. Christ consciousness. So quite interesting that the show is called The Truman Show. It's about being contained, it's about being watched, and then it's about escaping effectively the matrix. So this picture here, I also say it's a game of chess. This one's really fascinating, where it's like a 5D game of chess. Here it says 4D. It's like there's different layers. So people, we're still looking this right now as a 3D image. Look, it's flat. And I really want you to try to imagine 4 the different layers on there. It goes this way and it goes down. There's depth to it. So this is where it's going to come really interesting. So watch this. Just soaking that all up and observe. Yeah. What storm, Mr. President? You'll find out. Indeed. The storm will be the reactions of people. Mind-blowing stuff. So it's funny how certain things come up for you. So I was last night, as I do, just to see what's going on, seeing what else I can find and stuff. And I was having a little reminisce the other day of my trip to Hawaii. And I went on a Deepak Chopra meditation yoga retreat. I've never spent that much money for anything like that before. And I had an amazing time. At the time, I was just getting into my spiritual journey. I'd been like 4 months no drinking, now meditating a lot more. And Deepak was the guy that I was going to. So I went to his thing, and I remember he was talking about loads of different stuff. Didn't really take it in. It was love all around, or it felt like that. People from different countries. And I like this. Like, this was in Hawaii, and I was on the big island. Hawaii was magic. Like, there was this energy to it. People used to tell me that the islands are like chakras of the earth. Should come in handy today. I went skydiving out there. I did a helicopter trip. I didn't realize how big the island was. I did a half marathon in Kona. It was everything about the trip was amazing. Really, really cool. And then I had a moment out there. So before again, how things line up. Before the meditation retreat, I had about 12 days in Kona. And I was staying at a hostel. And this hostel, I'm not really a hostel guy, but thought, well, I'm going to give a hostel a go. It was brilliant. So I said, I'm going to go up the biggest mountain. It's called Mauna Kea. And I want to do the stars at some point. I'd love to see the stars. So I literally get in, I sleep, I get up in the morning. The first guy I meet there, I said, I fancy going. He said, I'm going today. He said, I'm a cameraman. I love taking photos of the stars. So all right, I'll go with you. So we went up there. He had all his gadgets and stuff, and we saw the sunset. Just magic, everything about it. It's 13,000 feet. And I remember I felt altitude at that point. And at night, it's freezing in there. And this guy's out, he's got his time-lapse cameras on. We got some good photos. He didn't sleep. He was getting all the star circles and stuff. Just, if I wanted someone for good photos, I landed with that match. And then in the morning, we went back up. And when the sun set, I like sunsets. And sunsets on my phone, there's loads. This was the sunrise. And I remember there was this moment where it just popped up. And I remember the word awe. I was in awe, and it was a complete bliss, silence, and everyone was part of that energy. I just remember, but it didn't mean anything to me back then. That was God. I remember that. I have like glimpses of that in sometimes meditation. It's just complete bliss, oneness. So Mauna Kea it was called. So my question to you was, what is the highest mountain in the world called? What's the highest mountain? Let's see what people come up with. So there's a photo, loads of magic happened on this trip as well. So the day after, by the way, when we went up there, the mountain was closed for a week. We was going to do skydiving, and he didn't have any spaces. There was 4 of us, and we got a phone call 2 hours before. He said, we're going up. I've got a space for 4 if you want it. Okay. As soon as we went up, we were the last flight, because then it started getting choppy. Loads of different things. It was like, synchronicity. Again, didn't know. There's something about the energy up there. And I remember a year later, I did a photo on Instagram with that reaching the stars. And I said, look out for a sign. And then my day was full of signs. On YouTube, if you type in, look out for a sign, I talk about that on a video there. It was magic, everything about it from that photo. And I said, God, I think because I was close with the stars, make a wish to the stars, they come true. Maybe that was part of it. And I felt the energy and all the synchronicities, and it was magic. So anyone answer that question first? What's the highest mountain? I'll just come on to it anyway. So I just assumed the highest mountain was Mount Everest. And then this thing popped up yesterday. It was like, Mauna Kea is the highest mountain in the world. I'm like, no, it's not. I was up there. Like, it was about 13,000 feet. It's not the highest mountain. I was up there. That's wrong. So then I looked in, and I was like, highest mountain. And it was like Mauna Kea. Like, the world's tallest mountain technically is not Mount Everest. This is last night after I did this meditation, by the way. So Mount Everest is the tallest mountain above sea level. But if we're talking sheer height base to summit, then the tallest mountain is Mauna Kea, the island of Hawaii. Here's our breakdown of it. Look, and then the number 33. So this puts the total height of Mauna Kea about 33,500. It was 33.4 feet. I'm going to go with that. So 33,000 feet. Like, so nearly a mile taller than Everest. So I'm sitting there, it's like, whoa, fancy that. All the mountains that I've been up, that was the tallest one in the world. And I said about the stars and stuff. And I was thinking, what does that mean above, from bottom of the sea to above the sea? Am I at the same height then when people climb 33,000 feet and you hear people dying on Everest? And am I at the same height as them? Are we starting from the same foundation, like a flat thing? And I was trying to work that out. So that got me thinking yesterday, okay, I'm going to just flow with it today then, people. So if people do have anything to say, please let me know. So I said, okay, so that was above sea level from the bottom of sea level. So I go, okay, what's the country at the lowest, below sea level then? Is there a country? Have a guess what country it is. Get involved, peeps, if you can. I know it's a bit behind on the chat. So I typed, so that was the highest point above sea level, from the bottom of sea level. What's the country bottom? I'm going to go with it anyway. Israel. And I had this moment, I'm like, what? So Israel is 414 feet below sea level. So I'm like, bottom of the earth. This is how my mind was thinking to start with. I'm thinking, bottom of the earth. What's at the bottom of the earth? Is that hell? And they're all fighting at the bottom of the earth. And then all of a sudden that they realized, and I'm all these different things are going through my head. I'm thinking, okay, so let me search into it then. So what is the lowest point on earth? And it was top 10. Right at the bottom was the Dead Sea, Israel, which is about 10 kilometers. Look, at 33.7% of the devoid line. So I'm thinking there's a lot of 33s in here as well. So Dead Sea, Israel. So now I'm thinking creation. The world that we see is us. And I've always been told that Israel is like the heart of the world. There's something else about it, regardless about the meanings and the label, it's the energy. They call it the Holy Land as well. So you've got the Muslim faith, Jewish faith, and Christian faith, and they all got in Jerusalem. It's now been. So I'm thinking all these different things, like there must be an energy to it there. It's at the bottom of the earth. And so my head's going like this, and I'm trying to work out how does that make sense in relation to Hawaii then? Because Hawaii is quite a hot country. Egypt's on the equator, not Israel's kind of near the equator, and I couldn't put it together. And I couldn't work out, hang on, this don't make sense a tiny bit. So I do a tiny bit more on there. So instantly my head went to the flat earth model a tiny bit. So I'm saying, right, it's at the bottom of the earth. How does that make sense into it? And at first I'm like, does the world just go upwards? So, you know, when I said that 5D thing, we're looking at a map 3D, 2D. We're not looking at it depth and from God's position going down. So I'm trying to work out, and I come up with this idea yesterday. I'm like, and certain bits didn't make any sense. So I keep going a bit more. So then look at like, and again, the flat earth, not the flat earth concept was amazing for me because it showed me how much we've been lied to from our maps. But as I've gone into, and look at again, people, look at the number 33 again, look, the 10 lowest areas on earth are listed below. We also have a list of 33 countries where lands below sea occurs. I've just shown you 3 articles, 33,000 feet from sea level for the mountain, 33% going down. Now there's 33 countries below sea level. 3 articles. So I'm like, if the storytellers about the narrative and stuff has always been created by God, then, and I've said this for a while, the maps, I've never understood how they did maps. How they made maps? How do we know that they're right? I know Africa's not the size of the map on there. And look at Russia, and it's bloody biggest country in the world, but you say it's China. And so I know maps don't work. And also the flat earth model says that doesn't work. It don't work at all. So watch this, people. This is then I was thinking, right, Israel, I look at it's the desert. It's desert people, it's Arabs. It's hot. If it's at the bottom of the earth, how can it be hot down there? And I'm trying to work out, but at the top of the mountain's cold. So can you see my logic? How does that make sense if the, like, doesn't make any sense? So I'm sitting there looking at my map today, going, fuck. Apologies. I was like, oh, we look at the maps wrong. It's that way. They're spirals. It's downwards. It's depth. And then it hit me like that. Where was the sun born? Look. First of all, that's the Dead Sea. And I like the word dead as well. Christ was dead, right? So I'm like, shit, looking at all this, I apologize for my language, because I don't normally swear. It's just, it's got me excited, this has, because it's thrown a whole new dimension on it. So what's this? Oh, where was Jesus Christ born? Bethlehem, Israel, 10 minutes, 10 kilometers from Jerusalem. I've been teaching for a while now, continuing to say to people, Christ is within us, Christ consciousness. You rise within Christ. The Son comes down, the Son of God, comes down to save you every day. You let the Son into your life, which means you have to let God into your life, and then you plant your seed every day. Apple, core, seed, at your root chakra. And then the sun comes up through your body, the straight and narrow path. It goes up your 33 vertebrae. And when you cross over, you die, leaving the human experience because you're one with the Father. That's a whole spiritual journey. So they're allegories. But those stories had to be written based on the world that we live in too, because everything is a mirror. So the Son of God, we look at it as Jesus Christ, this little dude from Bethlehem's got popped out in a manger, and by Mary, and the allegory still, the Son. So watch this. Let's see where people are now. As above, so below. Yeah, this and the other one that I shared today on the Q posts, I shouldn't really mention it on here, but it says up is right, no, up is down, down is up, right is left, left is left. And I was thinking, we look at that about people, and everything we're seeing is back to front. I was also thinking the direction of the earth. Left is left because it's a spiral. Left just keeps going left. That's all you're doing, you're spiraling. So watch this. So Bethlehem, Christ. So for me now, it now makes sense if we look at the map again. So this map, just look at the color of the world as well, because what I didn't get either was how certain countries, like in Arizona where I was, it was 120 degrees every day. But how was the rest of America not like that? I didn't get couldn't work out the path or anything as well. Right, so this is the map that we're showing. I know that's wrong anyway. The world's not flat like that. It's a flat earth. I've said flat earth, flat earth. Let me just show you a flat earth map. I've got a photo of it in a minute. So like this, that's the model that we have been put forward, suggested, and people are, oh no, it's not right, it's not right. It's not right either. However, what's quite interesting, so again, logos, numbers, and watch this, people. UN map. So the United Nations map, which we say UN's bad, has got a flat earth on it. And have a guess how many segments are in the flat earth map? 33. So I'm like, so when Jesus dies on the cross at 33, on the 33rd vertebrae, as it comes up, you become king. High king. You go high king. Israel's the highest place to the sun. Not the tallest or anything, highest place to the sun. That's where the sun starts every day. Get rid of time. We're like Australia and did it because we created the clock. And another guy that had a big impact of digitalizing the clock was Harry Truman. So I then go back to this map. So look from 3D or even on this. Because the other thing that I've been looking at, this world that we live in, and I'm like, we had slavery not so long ago. If you look at Africa, how are they not developed like we are? Like, how? How does that make any sense? How are they starving when they got all, how we let that? We're so cruel. We're so evil. I think that was one of the last places to be found. And I'm going to come on to that as well. Think about the English-speaking countries first. I'm now starting to feel that English was the main language. That was the part of the, and everything was abbreviated after. God come down. Jesus was the first enlightened one with creation. Everything was here anyway. It wasn't like nothing had started. Everything was here. But when we look at biblical scriptures and we look at stuff, we're only focusing on the truth. The truth is not a literal story, it's us. So as soon as creation, that's the truth. So let me come back to this map because this will start making more sense. So look, Israel's about here. So now, if you've been, how do you know that that's the way that the world looks? Oh, satellite, oh, this, oh, that. Who gave us them? Someone who created something amazing to be able to come up with this concept, right? How have they done it all? So if you're military and this has been a plan to take out evil, one of the first things you do, because you know that evil takes over God's creation, is to mess up the maps. And the maps are mostly still true, but they're not a right model. But look, so let me try to show you a flat earth map as well. But first of all, look at, again, we say it's the equator countries. Look, because you've got all these countries, which is all like more deserty and stuff as well. So it starts, if you're closer to the sun, right, you're going to have less green, right? So I'm suggesting that Israel and then the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is right neighboring it, and Saudi Arabia is the biggest funding of evil. We've got Iraq, Syria, Iran. Where's all the wars been? Where's all been evil? So if that was one of the first places, that means society's been there longer, not the timelines that we're told, because we've had to manipulate a lot of that too. But if it's more and more growing and people then venture out, more and more evil then gets around there first too. So try to look at it from a spiritual war, from people having to do messages. And now you've got, you know, there's other lands, but we don't know who they are, where they are. And then you've got people discovering. We're told from our timelines, Egyptians were kind of like the first period. Again, our history, none of it makes sense. But then we had indigenous in Australia, which are, they've been here a lot longer. And you had the indigenous and the Indian natives in America and Canada. And so try to look at it just from this. So from the peak, the highest, 33. And then it goes spiraling down, that even our history of when we discovered countries, and we say it wasn't discovered, we say, oh, they've been here the longest. Perhaps they have, but we only discovered them at this time. Effectively, we've only found them the same time as they found us. It's the same time, they're in fancy dress, they look completely different to what we do. Oh, so we say it's, oh, that's old school. They're well backwards and stuff. But that's all they know. They didn't have the luxury of anything else. So again, this is where my mind's going. So allegories. So then I'm starting to look at it like this. Well, how would it make sense with the sun? And how's that over there? Go beyond countries. We've just made it up. It's land. There's mountains. There's depth from ocean layers. Then the sun goes round. So if the sun's the closest there, and again, I have to work on this because there's going to be loads of flaws from it. Now I'm looking at steps. It's like step down, steps across to Spain. Then you've got Greece. Then you've got Malta. You've got those countries. But it's at a higher level. So you can call that Europe. You can call that Africa. You can call that Asia. But really, the one continent is the ones closest to the sun first. But it's just spread out because there's water and stuff in the way. It's all one land mass or one creation looking down. It's like a cup and or a bucket, and you've got the different. It's only the water that brings us level. So I'm starting to say then the reason why they put Israel in the 1945 because that was the original place and closest to the sun every day. And if you're getting in the way of God, like that would be the first place that people would want to go, because the Son of God comes there. So from the earth, now it then starts to make sense of how many continents do we have? 7. How many chakras do we have? 7. How many planets originally were? 7. It's like everything mirrors, but it's down. So my thought process now then was, it goes in this kind of circle bit, but let me show the water next. So coming back to that spiral, watch the water, not the land, watch the water. Because if the sun goes down and then comes up, it spirals, then the closer it is to the water, there's less water. So it's like we're going downwards still. Does that make sense, people? Right, come back. So I started diving in a bit more. So I'm first of all thinking out what is the different countries which is below sea level, because there was a whole list of countries then. And I was trying to map it out. I think I've got a map here. It's too hard because I don't have a flat earth map, but let me just see where I had it. Right, I'm end up going through all of them. I thought I did map it out, but maybe I haven't. I'll end up finding it in a minute. I know what I do. So then I know that this map from the 1600s, looking into the flat earth model, these are called the Mercator maps. And I always remember there was 4 islands around like the North Pole, and we call it North, magnetic North and stuff like that as well. But if it's like that's all pointing north. So even if you're going north on a country, you don't realize it's above you. So again, when we travel, how do you know where things are in what direction, apart from a sign telling you or a sat nav telling you? It's like the pilots, when they're flying, they're on autopilot. They don't know. And I've worked out loads of things today in terms of the height. So I was trying to work out how would they do it. Well, flights, you could go down and you could come up. And then I was thinking, well, how would they get away? Well, they just fly at 33,000 feet, believe it or not, average, 33,000 cruising feet. So everything's up there. You can come down at any point. So again, I need to back a lot of this stuff up. These are all things that are just popping up at the moment. So there was maps which had islands around it. And they said the island suggested it was like the ventricles of the heart. And then at the middle was the core of it all. And they called that Mount Meru, Black Rock, Mount Shambhala. There's all these old mystics in every culture depicted of this place. Mecca, Black Rock, what's the other one? Garden of Eden as well. But there's always a body. Then you got the 4 islands, but those islands were removed. All the other maps after the 1600s were gone. And it's like, oh, they're hiding it from us. They won't allow us get to Antarctica around the outside. The military has always been us controlling it. So what a great military tactic is to edit certain things, knowing that in your experience, without words, without signs, without update, you wouldn't know where you are. You're just on land. That bit's hot, that bit's greeny. That bit's got rivers on it, and that bit's got oceans. But you wouldn't even see half of that. Some people live in the same village their whole life and don't see outside of it because they didn't know at the time. They just did what they come in this world. And then there's obviously explorers. So the message of God now, I feel like God's children was put there first because there's all this stuff going on in God's plan. He's left all these creations and these animals and these different, but we need to work on. So first of all, that's all they knew. Then there was the message of God, and then the disciples, you had Jesus, and I'm just using a story, but this is an idea. All they would have known is that, though. However, there would have been all these other places as well, still going on at the same time. And they got their own ways of doing it. They got their own, it's still a collective consciousness that they don't know about these other people. So some of the buildings echoed the same. And you're like, how would they have known? How could they have done that? Or because they were still there. They just didn't know about any other tribe or race or culture until criminals started realizing we can go and make money out of them. We can. So then you got things like the Commonwealth. So let me show you a few more things on the flat Earth map. Go on this one first. Oh yeah. So here's where I was trying to map it out. So these were like the lowest places. So look at if we use that map, you say, oh, how does that make sense? So at the bottom of South America, which is near the Antarctica and Australia, how would then that be close to the sun? So I was going back and forth. So I'll go back to this map again, but look at the bottom of South America. You've still got, this is meant to be close to the Antarctica, which we're told, and suggestion has, we don't know how far away it is though. No one's allowed to go there. But it mapped out even on these. So I'm convinced that if we went as a spiral, think stairs. So it'd be stairs, and it'd be spiraling around, watch the water, it'd be spiraling around. And let me show you some things just to match up with what I'm saying here. So, flat Earth map, and this was the map that I was talking about earlier. Why isn't this? This is what the entire known universe looks like on the things like that. When people show you nonsense, how can you back that up? So that's a successive flat Earth map. That was the map that was kind of hidden. Look, as above, so below. So these words circulate through the occult of magic circles. They're recorded in Hermetic texts, although they originate in the Vedas. The actual text of that maxim, as translated by Dennis W. Hock from the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, is that which is below corresponds to which is above, and that which is above corresponds to which is below. To accomplish the miracle of the one thing, thus whatever happens on any level of the reality, physical, emotional, or mental, also happens on every other level. This principle, however, is more often used in the sense of the microcosm and of the macrocosm. The microcosm is itself, and the macrocosm is the universe. The macrocosm is the microcosm, and the vice versa. Within each lies the other. Through understanding one, usually the microcosm, a man may understand the other. So all it's really suggesting people, again, it's a mirror for how we turn up for us. Everything we put out comes back. How we treat others, which is one of the teachings, is how we're going to be treated back. Our ego gets met with ego. If you turn up as the soul and you choose to go for that path of least resistance, because it is, that's what you get back. But think about now as the mirror. Everything I put out in this world will come back to me too. The more I appreciate, the more the world appreciates me back. I get loads of signs. I get loads of messages. I still get allergies. But everything now I'm appreciating more, knowing all this is God. So this was some of the maps that were suggested for the flat Earth thing. So again, no one can prove any of this. However, the link below, I've shared Harry Truman. I've gone quite a while. I showed the one document, the presentation I did of Harry Truman, where they go to Antarctica. Go watch what they did even back then. It'll blow your mind. So I know there's more land. So look at it from a bird's eye view. This is just well over the top for me. This could be just completely made up. In that inner circle is what we know as Earth. Earth is an anagram for heart. So the heart of the Earth. So from the macrocosm, there's more. But from our little world that we're seeing in this one, Israel is the heart, the sun. That's where the sun was born. Then everything else gets created. And I feel this whole life cycle, which we call it a life cycle, is you follow the sun. And you keep coming back and you choose. And the more things we start witnessing, the more we start experiencing. So we're going to keep going down. So when you hear about things coming out of the oceans and Atlantis, well, perhaps that is a possibility. Yet we just don't know, and we mostly gone through cycles, and it is continuous. But this is God's plan. So I realized as well, in the olden days, it was mostly a race to get into God's creation. And the plan was get God's message out there. So he had all these noble men and these wise people that then went over, and I couldn't understand like the Spanish Inquisition and the Portuguese invasion of Brazil and South America. I'm like, how did they do that? And why are they spreading the message? And did it? Well, the most of the message was so good and intent and good intentions was the message of Christ. It is the truth within you. Yet we've only been told it from the narrative of, oh, it's outside of you. But those are people who hated God that did exactly the same. And at the same time, we saw greed, we saw power, we saw people settle. And they get on because this is God's plan. Yeah, every moment we have a choice. Do we want to be in with it? Or we're going to go against it and go down our own routes, but we will be met with bumps along the way. And you've got that choice. So some lifetimes you come back, actually, I want to be like this. And then you've got some people that don't want anything to do with God. They don't want to be controlled. And they do anything they can to outsmart God, to defeat God. And they've tried, or that's all they've known. So they keep coming back, and that's what they get again. However, we've advanced so much now, they can't keep coming back and just repeating the same processes is more, because we've got the technology now to stop that. So if you think about from a God's perspective, and we're God's children and we all come down, let me just show you some other examples of this one. So this was another suggestion, but look at the spirals again from a bird's eye view, keeps going down. But this got me interested. And look at the way that like people who look at this, just precisely how bad were the 1500s people at marking maps? This bad, like this, if you believe this fidget spinner earth thingy. But look, most of they didn't know because they've never seen 4D before. Try to explain it. There's a kingdom in the middle. There's something called Europe. There's something called Africa. There's something called Asia. They're underneath each other. So I reckon it was Spain into Europe. There's mountains up there. Oh, we come back down and then we go through into Asia that way. And then you've got the bottom of Africa, which is very mountainous and stuff as well. And then if in God's creation too. So God's working this way. We're going down and we're bringing God's world. So every DNA, there's evil amongst us. And then we keep being the hybrids. We're the fallen angels. We've come closer from the stars, and now we're working at every level in every dimension. And then there's people fighting against that. Yet God already been on this path before. He mostly put all these scary animals in that place called Africa, because that's right at the bottom. So any invaders coming into our territory, oh, we've got to go past those big monsters first. What are they? Nah, not fancy that. There's loads of islands in the middle of nowhere that just got snakes on there. Mostly God putting them there, protection. They got whales in the ocean protecting us. Yet from our perspective, and the world's changing in that sense too, we're killing them. We're chopping. So they got fear against us, and they're here to give us a lesson and give us a protect. So again, we've got suggestion that these kind of drawings have been coming to us for a long time. Let me show you some more. So people coming up with all sort of concepts now. There's loads. There's infinite planes. So when we say extraterrestrial, it's extra terrain. When we talk about other planets, it's just other planes. And then you hear the Game of Thrones, which got a lot of my mind thinking today with all the distant kingdoms and the distant lands and beyond the ice wall. I feel that ice wall is the last discovery is Antarctica. That's the lowest, furthest away from the sun. Then Greenland that I mentioned in the World War II. Greenland's not at the top of the world like we're shown on the map. Greenland's at the bottom because it's cold and there's nothing there. But it's one of the last discoveries, hence Harry Truman. Right, let's move. And they've gone even further now. We just don't know about it. But they contained us in this part, knowing that we got to clean up this first, because soon we'll be able to go to distant lands. We'll have all the technology and we can just disappear. But at the same time, then evil could disappear. And like in the olden days, you go in the forest and they just come out in their hoodie and they kill you, they rape you, they steal from you, that will continue. So I feel for the human race aspect, God's plan is to clear it all up. And the deeper you go, the darker you go in terms of complexity. Africans, dark. Aborigines, they've been here the longest. And then we put all the criminals on the in Australia, and they stopped sending the criminals from America around the 1776, the introduction of the Constitution. Brits used to just send them to America. And then in the end, they started sending them, they didn't have prisons or anything, and they didn't have, but they didn't want them destroying their kingdom, their land. Like, it's crazy when you start zooming out like this, people. So if you then look at, we call them advanced civilization, but that would be like the indigenous. We say they've been here the longest. I feel we discovered them within the least time. They just didn't have any other distractions. They were humans being humans in their surroundings. They didn't have TikTok influencing them to do some dances and post up material that is absolutely pointless and soulless, and they didn't have that. So they were advanced at that point. But how long do we actually know they were there for? We've come down and goes, oh, you've been here for this many. They've been here the same time we've been them. Based on the stories that they passed down, they can count generations. They might not have the technology to go dates. They've just got markings on the wall because that's all they knew. And the reason why I say it like that, look at Africa. Certain places were like, how have they not advanced? How we let it get? I just feel it's such a big landmass, it's further down. We haven't really tapped into it. And the people that have been there, they've been selling out. We've gone there to get slaves. Look at South America, from Angola to Salvador, when I was staying up there. That was African descent. We crossbreeds. Brazil's the most multicultural, but that was from Africa there. Then they took African and they took them to the Caribbean and America for slaves. So I feel America's slightly further down too. Does this make a bit more sense? So let me continue. I'm closing that one. So then I started typing spirals, Bible. Oh, let me go from this way first. I'm like, wow, I've definitely found something here. So the way that they built the buildings. If you look at the way they built the cathedrals, start from above, and then they call it a different levels of society. And then it got really interesting with the text. Look, so spirals on the water. Spirals, stars. And then watch this. And then it was like writing in spirals. We work in spirals, people. Our body, there's spindles, muscles, spindles, they spin. My muscle, when I was doing yoga, I don't train just like this. They rotate, they go round, they wrap, they sheath. We're all one organism, but we isolate everything. Look, and then this. Who's seen different things like this before? They're levels. If you take sun at the top, the soul, the sun, the higher self. Underneath that, you got the yin and yang. Underneath that, you got the three part being. Underneath that, you got then the four. That's the heart center, the human experience. And then I worked out what 5D, 4D, and 3D is. So 5D is the soul, it's the meditation. 4D is the mind. B, busy, or C, BC, before Christ, before you've crossed over. So BC is not the time. It's busy Christ, but mind is time. You can give it that concept. There's no such thing as time. So it's a choice, be busy or be Christ. Then the 5D, after death, AD. After death is when you're with the soul. That's what death is. It's a spiritual experience. So you come down, your soul set the mind, so the mind sets the body. The seed is now planted in the body. Then your sun rises. As it rises up the body, it lights the mind. You reach enlightenment. A light body is a light mind. It comes up. As you get to the 33rd vertebrae, the Christ, because you're conscious to be up there, crosses over. You're now king, you're royalty, in your crown, chakra. The 33rd vertebrae, you're a free man. You're out of the body. You're a free man. That's literally all this is an allegory. So we come down and go up. So if you then look at mirror, if Antarctica is the 7th continent, they've gone down 7 first. And now we're going to go back up again with our awareness, and we're clearing up all the way. I then worked out, or I say I worked out, these are things that I keep coming and keep popping up. So watch, look at all the text, spirals. Look at this one, spirals. But we only write on a flat paper. Now we've got the technology. Soon I feel that, again, all this NFT and visual art, oh, we can't trust technology. No, that's going to give us more of a godlike experience and show us God works in many ways. So I then come on to here. So the moon, it was suggesting that there was more land because mirror, mirror on the wall. When you look at the moon, it looks like the reflection of what we see as a map here. And they reckon that they can map out our Earth. There's more land. So people have done all this sort of stuff. Really interesting. Again, I can't prove any of this, but there's suggestion and it's logical. It makes sense. And people have done a lot of stuff on there. So if you type moon, mirror, map, and then click meme, memes how you get all the search terms on Google. So then I looked at, this is another thing. So I was thinking, right, how's the water work then? So I'm thinking, because it's circumnavigation on your compass or wherever you go, that's all you've got reference to. In the olden days when pirates used to go and Captain Cook went around the ice wall and stuff, you're still going round, but you're mostly going down too. How would you know? Because everything's sea level. So what's this? With the right vibration, God's energy, you can change the frequency and the water looks like it spirals. And sometimes it looks like it goes upwards too. So I'm thinking, is this, and you call it portals and you got, what do you do? Hurricanes and tornadoes, twisters. Is this all energy? All of it. We're just enhancing it. Yeah, so watch this. It looks like it slows down. And then you change the frequency and it looks like it's going the other way because of the way it shifts. There's a really good presentation, Dave Murphy, The Language of Creation. It's one of my best bits of education that I've had for many years. I reference that quite a lot as well. So then brings me to England. One of my best school trips was a canal trip. We went from London to, or where we was, West London to Birmingham. We went through the biggest tunnel and it was like Jack the Ripper and you have to do all the locks and stuff. But we've been using water levels for years. Again, how did they come up with this invention before even the Bosch drill work?
A canal lock raises and lowers a vessel between
Two
stretches
secs.
of water of different levels. The chamber is enclosed by an upper and lower gate. Each gate has a sluice or valve which controls the flow of water in and out of the chamber, thus allowing the water level to rise or fall when desired. The opening and closing of the gates and the operation of the sluices were operated by a lock-keeper who often lived nearby. The lock-keeper would also be responsible for keeping the lock free of debris. Though some of the locks were slightly different in design, the principles of operation were basically the same.
A lock keeper. So watch the water. A lock keeper. God's thumbprint. So glad I managed to catch this. Great to have you on, Reese. Really good to see you. This is so interesting, Harry. Haifa in Israel has Mount Carmel, where Muslim, Jews and Christians all live together in peace. Exactly. And that's the world. And what's the thing that's got in the way of that? People that corrupted our minds to tell us that's better, the same God, same it. So it's like we all have to go through all this, but for me, it makes it exciting. I know there's more land. Go watch that one that I said, I put in the link, Harry Truman and his expedition, or Admiral Byrd's expedition. Look what they did back then with the technology that we had back, and look how advanced the technology was. This was just after the war. And now all these years, like apparently been to the moon and stuff since as well. That was all lies by us. We set all that up. I've realized that now. We give them the stupid idea. JFK, we're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to the moon. He never went. But the next 3 presidents, they knew they were evil, come in and they went along with the lie. And they took all of it all. And then Nixon was the only president that was around that went to the moon. At the time, that technology, everyone believed it. But we knew long again, they're not going to get away with this. They all get caught in the lie. So we get them for treason straight away. We take them on, and then game theory, we replace them, we carry everything created is by us first. Just we don't know what the reason is for it. And that's what I mean. You can only create who here draws. You only can do that when you're in your creative state. Why are kids so good and they have so many talents when they're younger? Mums and dads, if you're listening, let them do something that they love. If they're not interested in it, find something that makes them fascinated. Show them someone that loves doing it. So they get inspired by the passion, by the energy, by the truth. It might not be for them. Or here's another thing for mums and dads watching. When your kids find something that they love doing and they're really good at it, make them aware that that doesn't have to be their identity too. Because if you're a model or a fighter, and you do that your whole growing up, and you get really famous, you get really good, and all eyes are on you, there's a point where you're not going to be a model and a boxer anymore, and you chase. I've got a friend in my area who's trying to be a rapper still. He's about 55. He should stop, in my view, but he doesn't look like he's enjoying it anymore. It's like he has to, and he's trying to prove a point. All comes to passion. Your best teachers are the ones that love what they're doing. That they do it, there's experience, not the one that looks like they're good or got the most followers. It's passion, it's love. Your dogs learn off you from energy, the way that you respond to them. It's love, it's a universal language, it's the truth. So I can show you that the water levels and stuff as well. So I'll quickly show you a time lapse. So this is the Suez Canal. Where's that popped up recently? Remember? Evergreen, Suez Canal. Where is it by? Oh, it's the Dead Sea. So look, hopefully this works. Problem sometimes with the YouTube when sharing videos is it's copyright then, so it messes everything up on my end. So trying to get this one. I love these time lapse of the crate ships that go like over the oceans and stuff, where you see all the stars and the night sky. Let me see if this comes up. Let me refresh it. 2 sets, people. It did work earlier. So there's more if you look at spiral in the sky things as well. It's really fascinating. Again, I haven't had too much time to look at it, but look, there's Christ. There's his spirals, leading the way, showing the way. But the sun shows the way. So again, that logic. Let's say every however many years, the sun changes its path slightly. I'll do it in a minute. Let me try and get this one working. So just to show you then about the depth, because this one's not working. This for me is something I wish I could do one day in my lifetime, but maybe when the technology is a bit better and it go into autopilot or something, that might be. But look, so remember what I said. If we look at a normal map and we talk about sea level and altitude and stuff like that as well, I used Mauna Kea versus Mount Everest. People die and stuff. So is it the same height? Or is it just lower down, but then comes up higher? Because you're still further away then from the sun. So it's downwards it goes up, like some of these movies that you see where it's the castle and that. Look how much depth's on here. This for me is just, this is, okay, you can watch this and go, wow, that's cool. But look at the human aspect and the evolution of this. Someone's had the balls to go, I'm going to jump off this. I'm going to make a squirrel suit out of it. I'm going to give it a go. Someone's done that. There's many people that die doing this stuff. There's a great documentary on wall climbing at El Capitan. And it's the evolution of wall climbing. And you see, like, this stuff inspires me more now. I wouldn't have cared about any of this. But think about the evolution of to find the spots, to get up there, to test it out, to do all the footage. And then they have to keep, and this is life. This is change. So the Bible was the first inspiration. Let's take that as the new technology then. But look how much we've evolved since then. Do we forget about it? No, we bring it with us. We take the bits, but we've evolved. That's changed people. That's God. That's the human experience. If you're holding on to that, you're well past it. They didn't know about they didn't know about this stuff. They didn't have the internet. So they weren't informed. So you're waiting for Jesus to come and save you. My question is, first of all, what's that look like when he does come down? But you're waiting for something that's not going to happen, that is happening every time now. The sun comes down every day. And the other lie is you don't need saving people. You just need to wake up. That's it. This, oh, please work now.
Is okay, the rhythm?
Look how they just jump off.
Uno. Profit. We go.
Amazing. So they've been going for a bit now. Look how much further they got to go. So it has to go down. It has to. So I feel that we got, I'm going to say the Arab nations first. Then you've got like the top of what we call Africa, which goes into Spain. And then it's gone the other direction too. And it's layers. That's where I'm starting to try to map it all out. I'm going to really have a go at this over the next few weeks. That must be absolutely magic to do that. So then you look at all the different maps and they talk about the rotations and how the sun works as well. Let me just show you sun. So the sun, actually, if you take the same photo in the same spot, makes like a number 8 shape. So again, it depends where you're watching it from as well, but it's going lower and higher. So even when you say that some countries in the southern hemisphere, the whole continent isn't. It's like Africa is layers. And if you think now on the aeroplane, it can just fly down and fly up. On the boat, you still do the same, but it's technology is controlling. You know that because half the time they fly on autopilot. So then I was thinking, so if that's the path of the ocean, and in the old days, it was how the boats worked, and the Brits seemed to be the ones that were just taking over everything on that small little island. They mostly at the time, and I was looking, when I was in Arizona, the whole state's bigger than the UK, the whole state. Yet there's more people in London, 8 million, in London, than there is in the whole of Arizona, which is 7 million. And I used to say the sky looks different because it's just so big and stretched out. I haven't seen it like that before, which is hard to put into words. It just was different. So I was thinking, in the olden days, how did the Brits go round and get all the Commonwealth country? How did they manage to do that all? Well, if these countries had never known about the outside world, they're just born here. God's children were left to do whatever they wanted to. Can you imagine he's come back round in a cycle again? Now he's going to come down and we're bringing the Christ message as well, like Christ within. And then people have their own ways of doing things. So the Brits mostly went round first with the evil power grabbers, and they go and make all these fake stories. You owe the king, you owe this, give us your people, and whatever they wanted. They got away with it until they got to the big land of America. And again, we don't exactly know what happened there, but that's when 1776 started, the Constitution, which all this comes back to. I still think there's a lot of lies and changes, but it's God's plan versus anyone to defeat God. And there was a lot of good people doing God's plan, but because they're on their own accords, they then go and be powerful, make money, like kill people, because they can get away with it back then. So yeah, I can imagine that might have been the route, because I was thinking, how they just randomly picked all these countries in the middle of nowhere. But if that is the route of the ocean, right, there's that, right, we get that one. There's the next island there. It's mostly on a rotation. What else we got? So then I was looking at even the size of islands on their own. Greenland is, none of these make sense. It's ridiculous. When I went Philippines, I didn't realize Philippines is a bunch of 700 or so islands, was bigger than the UK. I got all my flights wrong on the first one. I thought I could get a taxi boat over. Like, I had to go back to Manila and come back again. Just, again, not thinking. Then look at the planes. About 31,000 to 42,000 feet. So if you just send a plane up as high as you can, regardless of where you're going, that's the rules you go up there. So the pilot's not going to know. The pilot can't go, no, I fly, I can see it all. You're up there, mate. You're up there, you can't see. You land and then you come up again. So again, we don't know. We can't rely on people that do think. Their truth is what they see. It's the same with the flat earth. For years, they didn't even know. They just assumed. Because up there, you can't see what left or right is and stuff. You're following loads of numbers on the screen. That's it. And in Africa, and one of the films, it tells you, I can't remember what film it was. It tells you like the maps are all completely wrong. So I'm going Africa, Australia, because it's a bit further out. Australia is closer to the sun, but was found one of the last points. I feel like Hawaii was then found after that, because there was a lot of relations with New Zealand, Hawaii, Japan, all those islands around there. But I'm like, that's in the middle of nowhere. But Hawaii is also near America. Then it comes into next Greenland. I'm not sure about Iceland. Again, I was trying to map it out because they're colder. It doesn't make sense being at the top, but freezing cup. Yeah, does that make sense? So on the map, they could be underneath each other. So then I said, what was the last place on Earth to be discovered by humans? And look, and even the way that they say it, it's inevitably surprising how late New Zealand and Madagascar was discovered, given how close they are to Australia and Africa. Saying Africa and Australia were there first. Well, the people, they mostly accustomed, and they got their tribes and their villages, and there's some parts where like other men haven't been onto it. But you hear about these people are savages, or they kill people when they come on their island. I know people that went out to Afghanistan for the war, and he said they call it bum day Thursdays, and the older men would do the younger men. That was their tradition. They didn't know any different. That was what they did. So it's only when we start finding out about it and say, actually, there's a choice here. That isn't not normal. Like, and then you start showing them the way of God. So these people got that all. I don't think Africa's been touched on so much yet. The story we've had it, if we starved the whole continent, and yeah, we should have done a lot more to it. But I don't feel we got there right yet. So you look at the coast, you've got South Africa, Zimbabwe, which we know is like corrupt and been influenced by the Dutch and everything over the years too, and you had the apartheid and stuff, all Western influence. But still in this middle land part is it's unknown territory. So we don't even know the shape of Africa in that sense, because again, it could be spirals. So there's loads to think about like this. It's just going to go down and down even more. So the flat earth map, there's loads of different suggestions. Again, you can't take any of these as a proof. I don't call myself a flat earther at all. People say, well, you're flat earth. I don't agree with what a lot of people agree. I just know the world's not a spinning globe. But now I don't feel that we're even on a flat. I feel it going down. It spirals. And you can come back up again. What's this one? Oh, this was the interesting one. Look, another number. In 1833, I got a feeling that we've been playing around with all these dates and timelines and stuff as well, because the calendar didn't start until 1500. So anyone who tells you this happened at 1066 and stuff, it's made up. The whole thing's made up. Like, you can't go back. So when people quote the Bible and Jesus was actually born on 9/11 and he was, how are you getting that? You've heard it from someone else. The calendar didn't exist. There was no such thing as time. If you was on a spiral and you're coming down, you got Asia down here, and Asia's still in there, like in the martial arts style things, like Zen practice and the Buddha land and all the temple. You say, oh, it's wild far back in time. It mostly was the same time. It's just different advancement, closer to God, longer with God. Yeah, and then no experience of God's creation as such, just all you know here. So let me just read on this one. Between 1788 and 1868, more than 162,000 convicts were transported to Australia. Of these, 7,000 arrived in 1833 alone. The convicts were transported as punishment for crimes committed in Britain and Ireland. In Australia, their lives were hard as they helped build the young colony. When they had served their sentences, most stayed on and become successful settlers. New land. And they were just dumped there then. For me, with the new world we're going into and the new education, and also think about the journey of God. You're evil in this world, or you're doing wrong in this world, but God still wins. And then when you come back in, you're going to come into a world more God, with more of a mission. You've experienced God now. You can't defeat God. You can try, you can have a miserable life trying all the time with the bit of fame and the bit of money. That's changing more and more. So in the end, God wins to the point where we accept God into our lives. I was born into a bad system. I was only going this direction because I was forced to go this way, or this was the lifestyle that I had to survive. That changes going forward. So we're all God's children. A lot of the darkness and dark entities, they're being removed anyway. So we're all going to have a more purpose. Imagine going beyond where no man's gone before, knowing that when we do go there, there's going to be other people there that maybe are not accustomed to what we know. Yet we can go there now with the technology to help and support and learn from them, and also show them how amazing we are and how magical we are and what we are capable of. And look how we've all come together. Listen to our story. I know I'm excited about going somewhere else, that's for sure. So lowest Earth elevation levels, good thing to look at. So when it says the lowest elevation levels, I'm still thinking it's because it's the closest to the sun, there's less water there. The Dead Sea, you float. So I just think up is down, down is up. Left is right, and left is left. It makes sense. You can go left or right depending on where you're standing. Look, I can go left is left. You say left is always left on mainstream media. Again, there's more. Q is an update of the Bible, that this time it's showing us not our history, it's showing us what's going on. It's showing us the corruption. It's showing us, do the research and learn about the world you live in. Take interest in the bigger picture and see. Once this all comes out, you now know. And so I put it out for everyone that speaks English, that then has chosen to go on this. We are so in a powerful position in terms of influence and change and impact. Like, think about what you know now. Think about all the wrongs that you've done and what you've learned from them. Think about the teachings and the messages passed on. Think about the pain, the suffering, the guilt, the worry, the blame, everything you've gone through. A lot of the world haven't been shown this stuff to have that experience yet. We speak a language that gives us freedom. It's a 5D language, so even that is powerful. Like, we have so much. So anyone a bit fed up and life's been a waste, no, trust me, it's going to get more and more exciting. And when you pass over, you have another meditation, you come back into a new body that you chose, then working on the message of God even more. Who remembers Alex the Kid? I'm not sure, but I remember you had to go up. It was a great game. We had to go down as well then.
At Take 5, you stay in your...
And then I was looking at things like Iceland, because Iceland, you get the 3-day moon cycle and stuff. And I was trying to work that out because that is ice. But there's all, they said the difference between North Pole and South Pole, which is just poles that they've thrown in there to confuse people. The difference is the fact that you get summer and so you get the yin and yang. So I feel that that's the next part. You just get that whole cycle, that whole shift. I was going to explain, I'll do this on my next presentation, but I've found a way now that I can present to you the way my mind works. So this is, whenever I think mind, body, soul, this is how my mind always sees it. So soul set the mind, and then the mind sets the body, and you meet at the heart center. Empowerment, embodiment, in-body mind. Soul set. See, every day you set intentions, your seeds in your body, which then start at your root chakra. So at the bottom of the earth, you're grounded. When you come through the roots, when you nourish them, you feed them, you soil them, you come out the soil. You put the I in soul, it's soil. You're then at your sacred space. You then raise up outer space, solar system, solar plexus. Then you're in your heart center, your truth, your 4 chambers of the heart, the magnetic heart. Then you speak from the heart through your throat chakra, up to your 3rd eye, in between your temples, your inner temple. And when you reach the highest point, you're hiking. You've gone hiking up the mountain. Now you get to the crown chakra, you become one with the creator. And that's nirvana. It's all there. So Christians that say, oh, this stuff is new age. No, they're telling you that because they don't want you connecting with God. Because you realize all the money that these people make and the message is quite negative and you're a sinner your whole life. And I'll talk about the seed, how we plant it. I'll talk about the body as the 8. Again, the sun course. Wow, it all makes sense. The heart is the middle of the 8. You turn 8 on its side. You got past, present is always now. Future, you can be the Faulkner, you send the eagle out. You create the future, you come back, you feel it. You go back and revisit the part, you come back. It's the flow of life. You cut 8 in half, you got a 3. And with the 3, the power of 3, 6, and 9, a 3 is a mirror. It then makes an 8. 6. And then the other way around is the 9. So I'm thinking as well, from the very first sun at the top, then you had the moon, then you got the stars. The stars go circles. 3, 6, and 9 always equals 3, 6, and 9. So if light, you know it's always going to be in one direction. That's why you should go with those numbers. Again, things that just make sense to me at the time. And I'll finish with just 6 Bible verses talking about God experiencing through his creation. Let's come back to the YouTube. 8 hertz is the body frequency. Thank you, thank you. Makes a lot of sense to me. It's like Fibonacci spiral. There you go, the sequence. Presenting everything in nature and the human body. Hi, Aline from Myrtle Beach, welcome. But this spiral thing, people, try to think for your body too. Everything's a spiral. Everything that we do. If you try to rotate, you get a bit more length, create space. So the biblical text, sorry. So ask the animals.
There we go.
Ask the animals and they will teach you, or the birds of the air and they will tell you, or speak to the earth and it will teach you, or let the fish of the sea inform you. Which of these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. That's Job 12:7-10. Love that. The sky points to God's glory. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. Creation was God's first missionary. Ever since the creation of the world, his eternal power and divine nature, invisible though they are, have been understood and seen through the things he has made, so they are without excuse. Nature brings praise to God. Praise the Lord from the heavens. Praise him from the heights above. Praise him, all his angels. Praise him, all his heavenly hosts. Praise him, sun and moon. Praise him, all you shining stars. Praise him. Praise him, you highest heavens and you waters above the skies. Let them praise the name of the Lord, for he commanded and they were created. He set them in place forever and ever. He gave a decree that will never pass away. Nature is both created and controlled by God. Praise the Lord from the earth, you great sea creatures and all ocean depths, lightning and hail, snow and clouds, stormy winds that do his bidding, you mountains and all hills, fruit trees and all cedars, wild animals and all cattle, small creatures and flying birds. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and the hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Again, it's magic when you look at it. This is all our creation. We're part of it. And then the 3 nights I was trying to find, because there's 3 days and 3 nights. There's something with Moses in there as well. So I don't know if this happens in Egypt at the highest point. Because it might be in the middle of the desert. It'd be interesting if someone could help me out on this one. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt. 3 days they saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had their light in their dwellings. So again, for me, it all starts at the heart. That is your light. It's your source. A mind spiraling. Oh, that's this one here. And I come off on the share screen. So people, I hope you enjoyed that. I've got a lot to do. My next meditation, by the way, will be going on a journey around God's creation in our own timeline of events that pop up for me, whatever comes my way. And we'll see if we can match it with the music for the different lands and stuff that we discover. Remember, what goes up must come down. What goes down must go up. So as we spiral down, the soul comes into the body. For us to get the full experience, we then go back up. Before Christ, you now have a choice, busy mind or creative, BC. And then when you cross over, it's after death. After death is when you leave the body and have that spiritual experience and become one with the creator. So please do let me know if anything does come up for you. Like I said, this all came up for me last night, and this morning I did a bit of the research for it. If you like these videos and you get a lot from them now and the meditations, there is something now called a super thanks, which you can support me on that. And your comments are so helpful, especially for people that do come on and wonder what this Harry the Soul Coach is all about. And tomorrow at 5, where are we? 9 p.m. 9 p.m. GMT and 1 p.m. PST will be the live meditation. It's called Spirals. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Joseph. And again, try to view your life. Every time you look outwards, see if you can add depth. See if you can see the curves and the shapes around it. When you go out in nature for walking with your dogs, you'll see the trees and you'll start seeing the energy coming out from it as well. You see the truth. So people, great to see you all. And I will catch you. I'm going to do 2 more lives this week on YouTube. One's going to be on meditation and just all the different components to meditation, make it an enjoyable one. And one's called Breaking the Cycle. So we're going to again start looking at how we do things in this world and the sayings that we seem to just take on and we just accept that's just a normal way. For example, blowing out your birthday cakes. Every year when you celebrate a full cycle, you then blow your lights out. Why would you do that? Keep your lights on. So just different things that really get the mind, working. And for me, it's just a nice place to be going into this new world, being able to, because this is all called breaking through the matrix. Every concept that we know, I feel like we've been dumbed down for this specific reason, because all of a sudden you realize that life is worth living and life is exciting when we all can do this together. So everyone, I will catch you very soon and have a great rest of your Sunday wherever you are in the world. Take care.